All right, so get this. Today's deep dive is going to take us somewhere you might not expect when you're looking for, like, business advice.
Oh, okay, I'm intrigued. Lead the way.
Leviticus? Yep, you heard that right,
Uh,
Leviticus.
Not exactly the first place that comes to mind, I gotta admit.
Right. But stick with me here. There's some serious wisdom hidden in these ancient texts, trust me.
Well, I'm always up for a good treasure hunt. What kind of gems are we talking about here?
We're going to unearth some surprising insights about discipline, commitment, ethical leadership, stuff that's still relevant today, even in the business world.
Okay, now you've got my attention. Let's dive in.
All right, so first up, discipline.
Mm.
When you think Leviticus, what comes to mind?
Oh, I don't know. Lots of rules and rituals.
Exactly. And all those rituals, all those detailed instructions for sacrifices and offerings, those required serious discipline, right?
Yeah, I guess so. But how does that connect to, running a business?
Well, think about it. The Israelites had to follow those instructions meticulously every single time. That kind of rigor, that attention to detail, that's pretty important in business too, don't you think?
I see what you're saying. You're talking about consistency, like having a plan and sticking to it.
Exactly. You can have the best business strategy in the world, but if you don't have the discipline to execute it, to stay focused, it's all for nothing.
Right. It's like that saying, vision without action is just a daydream. So are you saying we can learn something about discipline from these ancient rituals?
Absolutely. I mean, think about it. If those Israelites could maintain that level of discipline in their religious practices, what can we learn from them about applying that same rigor to our own goals?
That's a good point. So how do we translate like ancient sacrifice to modern day discipline?
Well, I think it starts with having clear systems and processes in place. Just like the priests had a specific order of operations for the sacrifices, entrepreneurs need to define their own operating procedures for everything: product development, marketing, even customer service.
Yeah, I can see how having those clear systems in place would make things run a lot smoother. Less chaos, more efficiency.
Exactly. And when you have that consistency, it builds trust.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like if customers know they can count on you to deliver a quality product or service every time, that's huge.
It's a major competitive advantage.
Yep.
And not only that, that consistency allows you to grow. If you've got a solid foundation, if your processes are reliable, then you can scale your business without everything falling apart.
That makes sense. It's like you need a strong base to build anything tall and stable, right?
Exactly. So I'm curious, thinking about your own work, what are some of those like non-negotiables for you? Those daily practices that help you stay disciplined and on track?
Hmm, that's a good question. For me, it's definitely about having a structured morning routine. I like to start each day with a clear plan, even if it's just a simple to-do list. It helps me stay focused and productive.
I love that. Yeah, having a routine can be so powerful. For me, it's blocking out specific time for deep work, like no distractions, just focused effort on those tasks that really move the needle forward.
Yeah, I get that. It's all about finding what works for you, right? But the key is consistency. Those small daily acts of discipline really add up over time.
Totally. Okay, so we've talked about discipline, but let's move on to commitments. Leviticus has a lot to say about that, particularly when it comes to vows.
Vows, like solemn promises.
Yeah, exactly. And these weren't just, casual agreements. They were serious, binding commitments.
Interesting. So how does this concept of a vow connect to the business world?
Well, think about it. When you make a promise to a client, a partner, or an employee, you're essentially making a vow.
Yeah. And honoring those commitments is essential for building trust and credibility, right?
Absolutely. And in Leviticus, those vows were taken very seriously. It wasn't something you just like casually tossed around.
So what can we learn from that ancient sense of obligation?
I think it highlights the importance of being really intentional about the commitments we make. In the rush to close a deal or get a project off the ground, it's easy to overpromise.
Oh, yeah, I've been there. And then you end up scrambling to deliver, or worse, you disappoint people and damage relationships.
Exactly. So it's crucial to choose our words carefully, be realistic about what we can deliver, and then, actually follow through on those promises.
Right. It's about walking the walk, not just talking the talk. Actions speak louder than words, as they say.
Totally.
Right.
And remember, commitments are a two-way street. We expect others to honor their commitments to us, and we have the same obligation to them.
Absolutely. Respect and reciprocity are essential for any healthy relationship.
Okay, so now I want to shift gears a bit and talk about something that might seem a little unexpected in the context of Leviticus.
Hmm.
Ethical resource management.
Wait, hold on. Ethical resource management. What does that even have to do with Leviticus?
Well, bear with me here. Leviticus introduces these concepts of sabbatical and jubilee years.
Ah, remind me, what were those again?
So basically, these were periods of rest and reset. And this wasn't just for people. It was for the land itself and even for debts.
Wow, a system designed to prevent burnout and ensure long-term sustainability. That's pretty radical.
Right. It's like hitting the reset button on the entire system.
Mm.
And while we might not have, like, mandatory jubilee years today, that principle of recognizing the limits of resources and the need for renewal, it's super relevant to how we approach, well, everything. Business, the environment, even our own well-being.
I see what you're getting at. It's about thinking beyond short-term gains and considering the long-term impact of our actions.
Exactly. And asking ourselves, are we depleting resources, whether natural, financial, or even human, at a rate that's unsustainable? Do we need to build in periods of rest and renewal?
Yeah, to prevent burnout and ensure long-term productivity. It's a good point.
And it's not just about avoiding negative consequences. It's about creating systems that thrive, that regenerate, that replenish themselves.
It's like a shift in mindset from extraction to regeneration, from depletion to abundance. That's a powerful idea.
And it's an idea that's becoming increasingly critical as we face all these challenges like climate change, resource scarcity, social inequality.
So, how can we practically apply this Jubilee thinking? What would it look like to hit the reset button in our own systems?
Well, it could be something as simple as taking a regular digital detox, setting boundaries around work hours, or scheduling time for creative pursuits. Or it could be more systemic, like advocating for policies that promote environmental sustainability or fair labor practices.
Yeah, it's about recognizing that sustainability isn't just a buzzword, it's a fundamental principle for long-term success and well-being.
And it's about finding those practical ways to integrate that principle into our daily lives and work. So,
Mm.
what do you think? How does this Jubilee idea resonate with you?
I think it's really thought-provoking. It definitely challenges me to think differently about how I approach my work, my use of resources, even my own personal energy levels.
I'm right there with you. It's a powerful concept, and one that I think we'll be unpacking further as we continue this deep dive.
I'm looking forward to it. You know, it's funny, this whole Jubilee thing, I can't help but think about how it might apply to a modern business.
Oh, interesting. What do you mean? Like, would a company actually have a Jubilee moment? What would that even look like?
Right. I mean, are we talking debt forgiveness? Or
Yeah.
a radical redistribution of profits?
I mean, maybe it's not so literal, right?
Yeah, maybe it's more about reassessing priorities.
Okay, I like that. So what would that look like?
Well, imagine a company decides to take a Jubilee year to really invest in employee well-being.
Interesting.
Or to retrain their workforce, to keep up with new technologies, or maybe even to make significant contributions to their community.
It's like a corporate sabbatical almost, a time to step back from the constant pressure to make a profit and focus on the long-term health of the organization and everyone involved.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that a company's value isn't just about, quarterly earnings. It's also about its impact on its employees, its customers, and the world around it.
All right, let's shift gears a bit here. I want to talk about another theme that comes up a lot in Leviticus: community.
Community. Okay, I'm not sure I see the connection to business just yet.
Well, think about it. Leviticus puts a lot of emphasis on these religious festivals, right? Gatherings where people came together to celebrate, to connect, to strengthen their bonds.
Okay, yeah, I remember reading about those.
And those festivals weren't just about religious observance. They were also about building a sense of belonging, shared identity,
Mhm.
collective purpose.
Yeah.
And that's something that's incredibly valuable in a business context too, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. Creating a work environment where people feel valued, like they're part of something bigger.
Exactly. It's about more than just showing up and doing your job. It's about feeling connected to a shared mission.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think when employees feel like they're part of a community, they're more engaged, more productive, and more likely to stick around.
It's a win-win for everyone. And it's not just about what happens inside the company, right? This sense of community can extend outward too.
Oh, you mean like how a business engages with its local community?
Exactly. It's about being a good neighbor, contributing to the well-being of the broader society.
Right. It's about recognizing that a business is part of a larger ecosystem. Its success is tied to the health of that ecosystem.
Exactly. So what are some examples of companies that you admire? Ones that have built a strong sense of community, both internally and externally.
Well, one company that comes to mind is Patagonia.
Oh, yeah, they're great.
They're known for their high-quality outdoor gear, but also for their commitment to environmental sustainability and social responsibility.
They really walk the walk, don't they?
They do. They encourage their employees to get involved in environmental activism. They donate a percentage of their sales to environmental causes. They even sued the government to protect public lands.
That's awesome. It's so refreshing to see a company that's not just about profit, but about making a positive impact.
Right. It's about building a brand that stands for something, creating a company culture that attracts and retains top talent, and fostering a sense of loyalty and advocacy among their customers.
Okay, and last but not least, we have to talk about integrity. This is a theme that runs throughout Leviticus, this emphasis on ethical and moral conduct.
Yeah, and in the business world, integrity is about so much more than just following the rules. It's about transparency, honesty, fairness, and doing the right thing, even when it's hard.
It's about building a business you could be proud of, a business that operates with a strong moral compass.
Think about companies like Johnson and Johnson. You know, they famously pulled their Tylenol product off the shelves back in 1982.
Oh yeah, after that whole tampering incident, right?
Exactly. And even though it cost them a fortune, they did it. They were committed to customer safety and doing the right thing. And in the end, it really strengthened their brand, built trust with consumers.
It shows that doing the right thing, even when it's costly, can have a huge positive impact in the long run.
Integrity isn't just a nice bonus. It's the foundation of a sustainable and successful business.
Absolutely. It's about creating a culture where ethical behavior is expected, where employees feel empowered to speak up if something's wrong, and where customers trust that the company will always act in their best interests.
You know, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive into Leviticus.
We have.
From discipline and commitment to community and integrity, who would thought that an ancient text could offer so many relevant insights for the modern business world?
It really is amazing, isn't it, how these ancient ideas from Leviticus can spark such a relevant conversation about business ethics today.
I know, and it all comes back to that idea of the Jubilee, that resetted button for society.
Yeah, exactly. We've been talking about applying that Jubilee thinking to businesses and even our own lives, but I'm thinking, what if we went even bigger?
Bigger. Okay, how much bigger are we talking?
What if we imagined a Jubilee for entire industries or even our whole economic system?
Whoa. Now that's a thought-provoking idea. What would a reset even look like on that scale?
I know, it's kind of mind-blowing, right? What if we reimagined healthcare, education, even the way we measure economic progress?
Hmm. Yeah, that would definitely challenge some pretty deep-seated assumptions about how things should be done.
It would shake things up for sure. But it would also open up all sorts of possibilities for creating systems that are more equitable, sustainable, more just.
Yeah, it's like we've been given this ancient blueprint, but it's up to us to figure out how to adapt it to today's world, to our own unique challenges.
Exactly. And that's where the real work begins, right? Taking these timeless principles and turning them into action, into policies and innovations that create a better future.
It's not enough to just admire these ideas, we have to live them.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Leviticus, I'm left feeling this sense of, well, possibility. Who knew that this ancient text, one that's often seen as so rigid and rule-bound, could spark such creative, even radical thinking?
Right. It just goes to show that wisdom can be found in the most unexpected places, and that the past can offer some valuable guidance for navigating the present.
That's what I love about these deep dives. It's not just about learning new facts. It's about challenging our assumptions, expanding our perspectives, and sparking new ideas.
It's about realizing that we're all part of this ongoing conversation about how to create a better world.
So to everyone listening, we encourage you to keep that conversation going. Think about the principles we've discussed today. How can you apply them to your own life, your work, your community?
What kind of jubilee do you envision for the world around you?
Because in the end, it's not just about reading ancient texts. It's about writing our own stories of positive change.
Well said.
And on that note, this is where our deep dive ends for today. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep those ancient sparks of wisdom alive. Until next time, happy deep diving.